Welcome back. I'm your host, Kelle Sparta, transformational shaman, spiritual coach. So today we're going to do a spiritual evolution energy review reading, also known as a seer reading, because damn, that takes too long to say. And today we are having Amy on the call. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you.
Guys, don't forget to subscribe, share, rate, and review. This is how people get to know us and get to see us. And of course, you want to share the magic, right? It's cool. That's part of the fun. When you get into this work, you are sitting there going, oh my God, it so works. And I must tell everyone I know and drag them out to workshops with me so they don't think I'm nuts. Yeah. So this is a good time to be doing that in terms of sharing your podcast, the podcasts that you love. And hopefully we are one of those. Without further ado, because these are always longer episodes, I am going to go straight into the reading with Amy. We covered what the details were in advance. If you guys are curious how that works, you can listen to the first one we did. And Amy, do I have permission to enter your energy field for the purposes of this reading?
Yes, you do.
Okay, give me one moment. I'll be right there. Okay, so we talked a little bit before the call, and I know you're in Colorado, but I'm seeing your house. Do you have a ward on your house? Because I'm not actually getting to you yet. Do you have a protection on your house?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Now,
I
live
been trying
right next door. My neighbor is one of the best neighbors. It's a cemetery.
Ah,
They're very
okay.
quiet. I don't know if that would have something to do with it.
Okay, that might explain why they're showing me the house itself. I haven't tried to get in yet, but I was like, I don't normally see the house. I don't remember ever seeing a house before as I come to see somebody in over 3,000 of these readings. And that's why I was asking if there was a word or something on it that was like, warning, Will Robinson, don't try to hit the word, right? I don't know what that was, but let me see if they can tell me why I'm seeing the house instead of you. So hold on, let's see here. Okay. So someone who lived in that house put a protection on it.
Interesting.
Which is probably why you were inclined to buy it. But
And it's beautiful too.
yeah. So I just, because you live there now, the protection is yours. So you just have to give me permission to come into the house. So do I have permission?
You do.
Okay. All right. Here we go.
Mhm.
There we go. So good news. You don't have to ward your house. When I sold my house in Richmond, I left the ward on it too at the request of the buyer. Can happen. So I modified it so that it wasn't connected to me anymore. But yeah, okay. Let's see here. Now that they'll let me in the ward, now I don't have to, now I can strip away the image of the house so I can see you in relation to everything. Okay, I don't see any issues around you, so let's come into your aura. Fair warning, I've been told I tickle. Oh, okay. So the first impression that I get as I come into your aura is I came in and I flipped over and I became a plant that then grew so fast that it knocked my head on the top of your aura and then proceeded to punch through and grow some more. What this says to me is, and it's interesting, let me just check in to see you because that's me. We see you. Okay. So it's actually both I am you or me in this scenario. So it's what that says to me is that you're in a massive growth cycle right now, like outgrowing your identity, outgrowing your home life, your everything. You're outgrowing everything. And it's bleeding over onto other people. I don't know if that's because you're holding space for other people as a business owner or if it's because you're just growing that fast that the people around you are being impacted and being dragged into a new state of being or running away, right? Because that's what people do. They either get dragged along or they run away. Are you having so are you going through a cycle where you're losing friends?
I'm actually someone who doesn't have a whole lot of friends because I don't let a lot of people in.
Okay. All
So
right.
I don't think I'm losing friends.
Okay. Yeah. And I wasn't seeing a lot of losing friends. I was just checking on the cycle. But, and I see that in the root chakra anyway. So we'll see more about that there. But the massive growth cycle typically culls the herd of your friends, that's why I was saying. So I was just looking for a validation on that one. But if you don't have a lot of friends, that's not going to be the case. But
I mean,
you
could be
are,
more a matter of me culling people that no longer serve me.
yes. Yeah. And that's what I mean. When you are this, I am seeing the bleed over of this massive growth spurt. So I am seeing that it is impacting other people, so whether that's people close to you or clients or whatever. We didn't talk about what you do for work, so I don't know that, but it does feel like it is cascading out from you. Okay. And I see it as like a plant, which is interesting. Are you associated with plants in any way? Is that something significant to you?
Other than to say that I love them and I love nature and the forest.
Yeah, this feels like a flower of some kind. It's like a single stem flower that plants in the ground. So I don't know, maybe a tulip or something. I don't know. But I can't see the top of the flower. I can only see the base and the shoot coming up and leaves.
I would say there's some significance at this moment for an iris.
Okay. Yeah, it could be that. It is, the leaves are coming up from the bottom, not from the middle of the plant like a sunflower or something would. So an iris would be appropriate for that. Yeah. So anything else in the aura about this? Yeah, it's punching through your aura, which means that it's punching through your identity. And so when that happens, there's a foundational deconstruction that tends to happen along with that when you go through a massive identity shift. And so the key here is going to be to pay attention to what. Have you started pulling apart the foundations of your identity yet, or did it just punch through and you're just still recovering from that?
I think I'm in process, I'd say.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So here's how that process is going to work, just so you have a sense. Okay. As you go through foundational deconstruction, what happens is you start to pull out the things that no longer are either things that you want to be related to or things that you have already decided aren't you, right? It's, this used to be me, but I don't think so. I don't think so anymore, right? And so you start to pull all this stuff out. Now, if you do it in a lighter way, then you'll have a little sense of disorientation and some time of going, okay, if I'm not this, what am I? Right. And then, you know, it'll come in and it'll re-solidify and you'll just move on. If you do it at a medium level, you'll have a sense of disorientation and maybe a little vertigo or dizziness and maybe a little, I'm having a hard time grounding, or I'm not really sure what's going. I'm like, I don't know. I don't feel quite right. I'm not sure what's going on. Da, 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 da. It's because you pulled out enough of your foundation that you don't have that your foundation is unstable. And so it's hard to stand on. It's okay. Same process. Just wait for it to coalesce and it'll come back in and it'll re-solidify and you'll move on. If you do it at a hardcore level, you're going to yank everything out. You're going to be completely ungrounded. You'll probably be unsafe to drive. You'll lose all sense of rote activities because you have to pay attention to everything you do in order to not stop doing it halfway through, coming out of the shower with shampoo in your hair or forgetting to put toothpaste on your toothbrush and, you know, running into door frames because you don't know where your edges are, things like that, right? And then it will take some time to recoalesce. And for me, that I did it at that level when I was like 28, and it recoalesced, and it took about 3-4 weeks. Okay. Did not drive during that time. I was not safe to drive. But the key, once you've finished your rip it all out phase, is to wait. Don't try to consciously choose what you bring in and put back together again, because to do so is to do it from a place of the you that you used to be. And so you will automatically bring back in tendencies from that space, which will automatically drag you back from the fullest growth you could have had. So you want to wait. want to be patient, which I know we're not good at, but you need to be patient. And you need to just be like, I wonder what it's going to give me. Stay in curiosity rather than trying to get to the end, which I know we're not good at either. But stay in the curiosity and allow it to recoalesce until it gets solid again. And then you will have the max growth possible from that process. Okay? All right. Now, you said, you said you were 57 in our beginning of our call, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you are just coming out of your second Saturn return. So there should have been a massive amount of upheaval, which is always fun. So every 28 years, Saturn comes back into our charts in the place that it was when we were born. Saturn is the great disruptor. And so it disrupts everything. When I was 28, I ripped my entire life apart. Like just ripped it to the bone, divorced my husband, got rid of the dog, sold the house, got rid of the business, moved out of state and started living with a bunch of people I met at the Renaissance Fair. I ran off and joined the circus, literally. Not exactly the circus, but close enough, right?
Yeah.
And so it doesn't have to be that intense, but I was intensely unhappy. So it worked out. I'm hoping I'm 55. I'm coming into mine. So in the next year. So I'm hoping that this one won't be as harsh, but you're probably in that state. So it comes in somewhere around 50, 56, 57, somewhere in there where this happens. Between 55 and 57, depending upon your chart as to when it shows up. And I'm presuming that you've had most of this. Does that seem relevant to you?
Yeah, I would say, although honestly, it was more around 48, the age of 48 or
Okay. That's actually your Chiron return. Chiron return is around 50. So it can be a couple years before or after. So given that you were 2 years early on that, I don't know, astrology is not my thing, but just be aware that this is a time when redefining yourself is relevant. Okay. Which we're already seeing in the process of the stuff that I've already looked at. We just got into your aura. We haven't gone anywhere yet, and we already know this. So it's going to be a theme, I could tell you.
Okay.
Given your age and given what I've just seen, it's going to be a theme. Okay, let's see if there's anything else in this that I need to tell you about. No. Okay, coming into the crown chakra. Check the energy flow. Okay. Are you aware you're a channel?
No.
Okay. So you're a natural channel, and something is trying very hard to channel through you right now. Like as I'm testing the energy flow, I'm feeling this push of the energy of this thing that's trying to channel through you right now. Let me see if I can identify it because it's being quite rude and being pushy. So let me check here. Because here's the thing about channeling is that channeling is possession with permission. And so anything that's trying to push through is trying to possess without permission. And that's just not good. Okay. Let me just see what's going on here. Has your dad crossed over? Yeah. So as I'm talking to the entity, it feels like your father's energy. And it's like, I have to tell her. I have to tell her. I'm like, what do you have to? So give me a second. Let me find out what he has to tell you because he's like desperate to tell you. Is there something that you wanted to know from him? Or is this just him needing to tell you something?
There's nothing that would be relevant,
Okay.
that would be useful at this point that I would need to know for him, put it that way.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So he's in a panic and he's saying, I have to tell her it's not her fault. It's all my fault. I'm sorry. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. That's big tingles. Okay. I don't know what the thing is. He's not showing me, but he's just, it's hardcore. He like needs you to know this because he can't move on until he has told you. Do you hear that?
I do.
Okay. And what else do you need? Hold on. Do you accept that?
I do.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Whew. So much relief on his end. Okay. He was stuck in his story. Wow. Lots and lots of regret, lots and lots of grief, lots and lots of upset and concern, and just all sorts of stuff. It's like he passed over, he saw the larger picture, and he had instant regrets. Okay. Let me see if he'll let me cross him over. Oh, that's good. All right. Yeah. Okay. So he's crossed over now. What is going to be interesting is because he was pushing so hard on your crown chakra, I'm betting that it was creating some anxiety for you. Then some heaviness and some anxiety. Just like unidentified anxiety, just general anxiety, right? It's just this sense of but you can't put your finger on it and it's just weird and whatever. But okay, so let me check your energy field now. And just clear away that extra stuff because he'd been working on that for a while. Okay. Oof. I'll just clear that out. All right. Checking the flow again now. Oh, so much better. All right. Flow is so much better because we're not competing with dad trying to get inside. Okay, good. Okay. All right. That looks good now. Whew, okay. Now let's see what else we can see. You okay? Might have impacted your energy, so I'm just checking in. Okay. Okay. So let's see here. Let's come to what else do we see here? Masculine energy. Okay. So there's a little bit of block around the masculine energy. So the masculine energy allows you to create structure and form and function in your life, right? But it's also associated with how you see masculinity in your world. Okay. And because this energy was so intense coming at you, it's impacting this particular part of your aura here, your chakra rather. And the I don't feel like you don't have access to structure because you do. You're a structured person. That's your default. But it feels like there's limitation on it right now. And it's temporary. It's not like a block you have to work on. Because he was pushing so hard on this and because his energy was masculine, it was impacting this. I don't think there's anything to actively work on here. I think it'll work itself out now that's been cleared, right? But it is there right now. So if you've been having a hard time staying as structured as you usually are, that would be a reason why. It's also if you've been having challenged relationships with men in your world, that would also be another reason because of this ink in here. Give it a couple of months, it'll clear itself out. Okay. All right. So let's see here. Interesting. So I see a history of having mind on overdrive, right? Just like blah, 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 brain, like overthink.
Oh
But
boy.
it feels like you're breaking out of that pattern though. It feels like that's starting to release. It's almost like you've hit the point where you have zero fucks to give and you're just like, whatever. You're letting go of a lot of things is what it feels. Again, this feels like part of the identity shift that you're redefining yourself and part of it is just not caring as much about some things, right? And so that's helping to reduce the mind on overdrive piece for you. It is still a default mode for you, so you will want to be careful about that. And a nice meditation or presence practice would be helpful. But a lot of it is related to hypervigilance in the nervous system. And so a good vagus nerve reset would be helpful. Have you ever heard of that?
I have.
Okay. So, yeah. So getting into the regular practice of doing those would be helpful for you. And then Yeah, you have the ability to channel. You have it turned off at the moment, which is why Dad couldn't get in. But if you decide to do it, you could. Your energy had been shunting somewhat around your crown chakra, which you don't want to let happen for long periods or with a lot of energy, because your aura has 88 eyes and they map to the nervous system or to the neurological systems. And so if you fry your aura, you fry your neurons, which is not good, right? But I think with the shift in his energy, not trying to take up as much, trying to get in, I feel like that's going to repair itself too. So I wouldn't worry about it. Okay. Although I feel like maybe, how long's he been gone?
2020.
Yeah. Okay. It feels like that there may have been some impact in your physiological systems, that maybe you have some weird physical symptoms that you haven't been able to identify where they come from. And that's going to work. They're going to work themselves out and solve themselves without any other intervention, because that was a function of the stuff happening in your crown chakra and the energy going into your aura. So it doesn't feel like it was a permanent damage, but it it did impact. So that give that 6 to 9 months for it to clear, and it should clear of its own accord. It's just got to repair itself. It's got to have time to repair itself. Okay. Okay. Anything else in this chakra? Nope. Okay. Coming down into the third eye. Third eye is your intuition. So there's a transmitter and a receiver. The transmitter is what you use when you go out to get information and bring it back. And then the receiver is what we think of as our intuition. We're just open to whatever's showing up in the energy around us, and we're receiving the information that way. Okay. Let me check your transmitter. Okay. So you have the ability to use your transmitter, but what happens is you start to ask for the information and you go, I'm not sure I want to know. And then you ask, and then, oh, I'm not sure I want to know. Ask, and oh, I don't think I want to know. And so that's why you're not getting anything back, is because you're literally not even getting to the place where you could get it before you go, maybe not, right? So that's going to be about clearing your fears around what you'll find. And there's an easy solution to this one, which is just put a filter on the receiver for that, the transmitter's receiver, not your open receiver. You could do that on both of them, actually, if you wanted to. It's saying, don't tell me anything that I don't want to know. Or don't tell me anything that don't tell me if you have a specific fear. Oh my God, what happens if I see that somebody's going to die, which is usually what people go to if they're starting in readings for the beginning. But you could say, don't show me somebody dying unless I can prevent it. And you can place whatever limitations you want on the receiving side. Okay. And that would give you permission to go and get what you need. Now, I will say that any limitations you place, be careful with the words you use. Okay. Because if you say, don't tell me anything I don't want to know, then you won't ever get a message back of something you need to know. Because if you don't want to know it, but you need to know it, you won't get it. Okay. So be very careful with your languaging. All right. Let's see. All right. Let's look at the receiver. Interesting. Okay. So what I'm seeing is that there's like this over layer of the receiver's energy that you've fried wide open, right? You're like, I'm receiving. And the aperture, right? So you know how a camera has that sort of spinny open aperture, right? The aperture is closed tight, but the outer layer is pried wide open. It's, I want to receive, but I don't want to see it, right? It's that combination. So again, the filter on the receiver would allow you to open that aperture, and then you'd be able to get more information. Okay. All right. Let's look in here, see what else. Okay. Creative processes for you have traditionally been in your head, right? And it feels like you're trying to do some more body-based creative stuff, maybe painting or sculpting or something that is less heady creative, right? So instead of doing something you have to think about to create, you're doing something to physically create. Okay. And you can't do that in your head. You can generally decide a path, but you've got to go with what shows up on the art, right? Whatever. If you make a brush stroke and it doesn't do exactly what you want it to do, it is not all screwed up. Okay. It is fine. It is part of the creative process. You find wherever it is that it's going and you go where it takes you rather than trying to think about what you wanted it to be. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Okay. Creativity takes place in the second chakra, which is an embodied space. So you have to be in a place of being with what is in order for it to work effectively. Okay. All right. So there's a little bit of fear of your own power in here. It's more about a fear of what you're going to see than it is of your power itself. And so we've already covered that.
Mhm.
I don't see any other limitations on it right now. This feels like the first life in which you're really giving yourself access to this stuff. So you're gonna be it's an all new thing for you, right? So it's not going to be a awakening old gifts or dealing with past life bullshit associated with it because you don't have that, right? So you're waking up in this way for the first time in your cycle. And that's going to be a different experience for you than somebody remembering, right? Let me see if there's anything specific to that they want me to tell you. Now, what they're saying is remember that you are a beginner in this, right? And don't judge yourself against other people, because if somebody's bringing in 15 lifetimes of having done this, they're going to go a lot faster than you will. And so don't take that personally, right? They had their first lifetime doing it too, and it just isn't this one, right? Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Anything else in regards to that? Ooh, yeah. Okay. So they're saying something about tingling. So when you're opening up energy patterns that haven't been used before, it's almost like they've been asleep, like your arm goes asleep and it wakes up and it tingles, right? That's prickly, tingly feeling. And you may experience that as you start to open up some gifts. You may have an energetic tingling sensation. And so don't worry about it. It will go away as you continue to use it. And then the other thing is don't push too hard, too fast, because we all start off with like a quarter-inch hose running through us to run energy, and then we grow over time. We expand as we use it. It expands and expands, but it's a gradual expansion thing. If you try to push it, and you'll know you're pushing it if you get like this energy in your field. You'll feel your energy going. And I know that doesn't make sense to you right now, but when it happens, you'll be like, yes, that's what it feels like. Okay. You'll know you're pushing too hard if you hit that womp energy. Don't push past that, because if you do, you can shred your column of energy and then it'll take you months to recover. Okay. So instead, just do it as you do it, and it will expand automatically, and it will expand in a way that does not shred you. Okay. So yeah. Okay. Okay, yes, that's everything for that. Now let's look at this. Your trust in the universe looks pretty good. So you trust it, and you trust so trust in the universe also relates to trust in self. When we trust ourselves, we trust the universe, and that's why it's so important to keep your word to yourself. If you promise yourself something, you need to keep your word, right? But this looks pretty good for you. It's still at the foundational level, so there's room for it to expand. A gratitude practice is a great way to expand it, as well as making a list of all the ways in which the universe has come through for you in the past, right? Because that's evidence to prove that it is on your side. I love making lists of things that are things that I initially thought were bad that turned out good. That's a really good way to reinforce your trust in the universe when things aren't going so well. Because sometimes it's almost always breakdown before breakthrough, right? So you got to break down the things that don't serve for the new level before the breakthrough can happen. Yeah. Okay. Anything else in this chakra? No. Okay. Coming into the fifth chakra, self-expression. Let's get this one physically. So give me a second. Okay. So the first thing that happened was my mouth opened. The second thing that happened was my tongue laid out into my mouth. And then I felt ready to speak into the world, but there was no energy coming out yet. Okay. So what that says to me is that you've been going through a process of starting to speak your truth more significantly. And you've gotten your mouth open, you've gotten your tongue out of the way, and now you're ready to speak what it is, but you haven't yet decided to do that. Okay. Does that make sense to you?
So
Okay. Let's see. No people pleasing communication. No dependence in asking for permission. So the child patterns are cleared. That's good. Okay. Little bit of hiding true self and unwilling to be vulnerable. This feels like it's also associated with I don't ask for help ever. And again, this goes back to the statement you made about not having a lot of friends, not letting a lot of people in. Okay. So letting people in means making yourself vulnerable. And vulnerable doesn't have to mean, see, this is the thing that we think when we come out of these environments, most people who come into spiritual work have had some form of trauma, right? And so when we think vulnerability, we think, okay, I'm going to take a knife, I'm going to put it in your hands, I'm going to put it up to my neck, and then I'm going to give you something that will allow you to cut me with it. And I'm going to trust you not to cut me with it. And that is not vulnerability, that's testing. That is testing someone to see if they are trustworthy with your deepest, darkest secrets, right? Vulnerability in this scenario is transparency. Okay. I'm going to be honest with you about who I am. I'm going to be honest with you about what I'm feeling. And I'm going to be honest with you about my boundaries. Okay. And then I'm going to see what you do. And if you do not choose to hurt me with anything you know from this, then, then you are a trustworthy person, right? I am not going to hand over my well-being to you. That is a child pattern. That is a child version of trust. An adult version of trust is I'm going to trust you to be who you tell me you are until you give me reason to believe otherwise. Okay, that's an adult version of trust. Okay, so yeah, okay, they're saying I can just leave that there. Okay. A little bit of invisibility in here. So, do you run a business?
no,
No. Okay. So then this isn't going to be, it will if are you looking for a job?
I'm in a place of having been somewhere for a very long time and feeling like I want to move on.
Yeah. Okay. So that's why they're bringing this up to me. The invisibility pattern that I'm seeing can result in a couple of things in the workplace. Okay. One is that you can get passed over for promotions because you're trying to be invisible, because if you're invisible, you're not a target. Right. And the other thing is that if you're trying to find a job, if you're invisible, then you're going to have a hard time with people noticing you. Okay. This would be something that I would clear before I go looking for a job. And so what that means is the fear comes, it's a child-based fear, and it comes from a place of not wanting to be a target. It's if I'm not seen, I can't be a target. And so what that means is that you have to step into recognizing that you are the adult and you are responsible for protecting your inner child now. And you just have to reinforce with the inner child that you are capable of doing that and that therefore it's okay for you to be seen. Okay. So it's the stepping into your own protector role.
I'm
Okay.
not sure. I think it's more like I'm not on a track of wanting to go any higher or advance or get promotions or anything like that. So I'm not
Yeah.
sure about that.
You,
I'm like, I'm in
I
this.
think the reason that's true is because of this invisibility thing.
Mhm.
Okay. It's one thing to be happy with where you are and what you've got and be in gratitude around it, but it's another thing to you just said that you were thinking about maybe looking for something else, which says that there's a moment now that's opening up for you of what if there was more, right? So sometimes the energies that we hold in our field cause us to settle for good enough. So, do you ever read the book Good to Great?
No.
Okay, it came out, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago. But the general thing of it is you can settle for good enough or you can go for great, but you can't do both at the same time. That is the short executive synopsis of that book. It's from a
I don't
business
need to read it now.
perspective, but that's really what it comes down to, okay? And that there's a seductiveness to good enough that causes us to settle because because fear of loss is greater than desire for gain in the average human psyche. And I'm not going to tell you what you want in life. I am going to tell you that this is impacting it.
Mhm.
Okay. So it can't hurt to do this work.
Yeah.
And it may, in fact, impact your life in ways that you can't imagine right now. Okay. Let's see here. What else? That's everything in this chakra. Okay. Coming down to the heart chakra. Okay. Lots of energy going out through a very tiny hole. So what's interesting is that what I saw as I was looking at this, do you remember you've seen the animated version of The Grinch, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you remember when he like has that little thing on top of his head that like uncurls and opens up? Yeah, okay.
Uh-huh.
So that was the energy I saw, but it was coming out from your heart, right? And it uncurled and opened up just like that. But it had this tiny little hole and it goes into this huge amount of energy going out. So you've got like all this love energy going out through this tiny little hole because you're not making a lot of space in your heart to let things, you can have this much space and then I'll get a lot of energy out of it. But there's no energy coming in. Okay, so what this says is that you've had a very armored heart for a long time, and you have consciously chosen to give out love, but you don't let any back in. And that feels like a defense against things being held against you and all this other stuff, too. So when we don't allow love in, it's usually because we feel like it comes with an obligation or it is transactional where I'll give you this much, you give me this much, which is again it's an obligation. So it can either be an obligation to love the person in return, and then it's who loves who more competition sort of thing, or it is a if you loved me, you would do these things for me manipulation sort of energy. Okay. And that's usually why we shut down our receiver, right? It's because love does not feel safe. And so this is a process to open. And so, what happens when you shut down your heart chakra like this is that you start to manage your emotions with your head instead of your heart. And so, you start to say, I'm upset about this. And instead of feeling upset, you start to think about all the reasons why you're upset and then try to rationalize your way out of being upset. That's how you try and resolve the emotion, is to rationalize it away, which doesn't actually do anything with the emotion, but stuff it. Okay. And so the more we do this, the more we stuff, the thicker the shell gets, so on and so forth. And so the process of getting out of it is a process. And step number one is learn how to receive love from strangers because that never comes with obligation, right? Somebody smiles at you, you receive it as an act of love. Somebody gets out of the way on the sidewalk for you, that's an act of love. Somebody lets you out in traffic, that's an act of love, right? Receive everything as an act of love. That anytime anybody takes you into consideration in any way, shape, or form, it is an act of love. Okay. And you receive it that way because that has zero risk because you're never going to see him again and it doesn't matter. Right. So it's the easiest pathway. Okay. And then from there, you have to start to do more active processes. They're telling me not to give you more than this right now because you've got a lot of stuffed emotion in your heart chakra and you're going to need some help navigating through that. And when that dam breaks, there's going to be some stuff that has to be dealt with and you're going to want some help with that. And we can talk about that at the end. But that's a good starting point for you. Okay? All right. Yeah. You've got some grief around the story. So here's the thing. When we close down our receiving of love, Our inner child doesn't know that we shut it down, and it thinks, oh, I'm just not getting loved, therefore I must not be lovable. And that becomes a story. And that story creates angst and upset, and the lack of receiving the love creates grief. And so that grief is built up. Okay. And so that's in there. As you open to receive love more, you'll find that when you have moments of profoundly feeling loved, that you're going to cry. And that's that grief coming out. And that will go on until you've processed all of that. For me, it took a couple of years. And then you'll stop crying when you feel loved. Okay. You'll also stop denying it and being like, oh, this isn't real, that sort of stuff. Okay. So let's see here. There's some leftover past life betrayal energy in here, but it doesn't feel active for you. It feels like it's an artifact of a past life. It's not really active. So I wouldn't worry about it. It feels like it's falling away. So it's not relevant for you. All right, coming down into the third chakra. Okay, let's look at the identity piece. No. Getting a nope. There's a So what I'm seeing you crouched down behind a wall, and the wall is like given nope energy. It's just holding the energy of you don't get to see me. Nope. It's like this energy combines with invisibility energy to be like you're just unknowable. You're that unknowable person, right? You got to earn the right to know who I am at all. You don't. So a lot of people will put up masks that say, I got it all together. I'm perfect. I'm good to go. But you don't have that. You're just like, nope. Unless I let you in, you don't get nothing from me. I'm not even bothering to put a mask for you. Just nope. So that's that goes back to the no fucks to give energy too. But it's like I can't be bothered to make a mask for you. Let me see how that works in relation to this shift in identity. Hold on, because it's going to impact it. Wow, doesn't even want to let me see it. Can you verbally give me permission to see that identity piece?
Yes, you have permission to see that identity piece.
Okay. Okay, there she is. All right. Did you have a big growth spurt in your preteen years where you were like gangly and awkward?
I think we all think of ourselves that way, maybe. Yeah, I feel like I could have been
just
pretty awkward as a teenager.
It's very interesting because I don't normally see preteen age. And you can listen to a ton of these on the podcast. And I can't remember. I might have seen this once before, but not for probably a decade. Usually the identity is an adult self. Okay. But when she stood up, she was really tall and really gangly and really awkward. Like, and that sort of, remember, I was asking in relation to the growth, right? So this could be a metaphor, but it's this, and when I see really tall, 7 feet tall, right? 7 foot tall and really long arms and legs, doesn't know where they go because they grew so fast and no idea what's going on, and just this sort of energy. And now that I'm looking at it, I associated the gangliness with the preteen. I don't think it is. I think it is the adult self. Yeah, because 7 foot tall, right? 7 foot tall would not be and you're clearly not 7 foot tall. This isn't a physical thing. This is this metaphor, right? And so I think that the reason why there's a nope on here is because you don't know yourself, right? You're just like, I don't know where my edges are. And if I move too much, I'm going to bang into somebody or whack you in the head because I don't know where my arms go to anymore because they grew so fast, right? And I'm going to whack my head. That's why she was literally sitting down behind the wall because when she pulled herself up out of the wall, she was like, it was like unfolding herself to get out of the position she was in. And she felt exposed. This feels like a function of the identity shift, right? Yeah, there's a process of really getting to feel into the new version of you and get comfortable with your edges again, right? Yeah, that's all they're showing me right now. Let me look at your inner child. Let me see if that gives me any more information. Okay, so she's laughing and happy, but there's a weird thing showing up with her where she's like stepping on something, and it's almost like what in cartoons where somebody steps on a piece of soap and they slide, but they like go flat to slide. They're parallel to the floor, right? So their foot goes out from underneath them and then they slide a few inches off the floor down the hallway. And I'm seeing that with her, but she's also, you know how that sense of speeding up, that image of things going really fast and how that looks. So she's sliding and speeding up, but she's laying down a few inches off the floor as she's doing it. So it's like this, watch me, wee, and she goes underneath things and just slides around. And I don't even know what that is, but that's what's showing up. Let me see what they tell me. What is that? Needed to give you the visual before I find out the meaning. Yeah, so it's like sneaking in under the radar energy. It's like you go fast and furious, but underneath everything. It's like I've been watching Leverage again recently, and Parker is the thief who gets through everything. She goes through ductwork and does cartwheels and stuff to get over laser beams and all that. So this is that energy, right? And so it's that sort of energy of sneaking in under the radar. So I don't know what that's about, but it's very mischievous. It's got that sort of energy of, look what I can do, right? That sort of energy to it. So I think because your identity right now, and it feels like pretty long term, it's like you're not like some people are like huge personalities and they're just like they take up a lot of space in the room. And I'm one of those people. I take up a lot of space in the room. I get it. But there are other people who are just, you're a fixture in the room. And therefore, you don't get noticed as much. And therefore, you can get things in under the radar. Does that make sense? Yeah, there's a superpower there that is from being in the space that you're in. And that superpower is being able to go whoop, dunk, and nobody noticed, right? You just like, slide it in, think, and I've just had my impact. And I get to just still sit back here and not be bothered. There's just that energy to it. Does that make sense?
I think so. Part of what comes to mind for me is that I'm at this place in my life where you're raised to believe these things and this is how it is. And that's what's breaking down for me now is realizing, no, it's not. No, it's not. Yeah. And so coming to terms with that. And then the quiet sitting back part is that if only you knew what I was really thinking.
Right. Yes.
You think I'm this normal person, but I'm not.
Right. Yeah. And
if
so
only you knew what I would really think and believe.
and so this is the piece though. This is what they're showing you now. And there's a reason for this. If this is what you're questioning in your life, is that they're showing you that this is how you're operating in the world right now. And so that as you break these patterns down, this slide in under the radar thing is not going to work anymore. Okay. Because you're coming at things more head on, and therefore everything has to be that way because you aren't the person anymore that they just go, oh yeah, it's just her, right? And you can slide stuff in. There's no sliding stuff in when you become more visible. Okay. That's what they're trying to say. Okay. All right. All right. Let's see what else is in here. Oh, good. Yeah, baby. Most people have a not good enough and you don't. That's awesome. Say again?
Say more. What do you mean by that?
So most people that I read have a not good enough block that says, I'm not good enough, I don't deserve, I can't have, whatever, right? You've got the cultural patterns from growing up as a woman in the US.
Yeah.
There are limitations there, but it's not I'm inherently not good enough. Your own worth, your own value, that sort of stuff. So that's not an issue for you, which is awesome because that's a huge problem for a lot of people. You do have some too big, too much though. So and too big, too much is a function of growing up in our generation of children are meant to be seen and not heard and preferably not seen. Go away, kid, you're too loud, you're too obnoxious, you're too much. That's the too big, too much energy. And there is some energy in there that's present for you, as well as this sense of don't be a bother, don't be a burden, don't be a bother, that energy, which is more of the feminine patterning, right? We get a lot of that. Let me see. Not seeing the martyr, so that's good. I do see some not important in here. Not important is a function of putting yourself at the bottom of your own priority list for too long. We make ourselves unimportant by not treating ourselves as an important person in our own life, and then we externalize that by projecting it onto others. And so the simple solution to that is make yourself the top of your own priority list. A priority list. Yeah, I can talk. And it feels like you're already doing that. Feels like you're already in process on that. So that'll be helpful. Then the rest of it just works itself out. All right. Anything else in this chakra? It's an interesting dynamic. You're really smart, but there's a story in here about you're not smart enough. I see that resonates.
It does.
Yeah. Which I almost didn't say it because I'm like, she's smart as a whip. Like, why? This can't be a story, but yeah, there's a story in there that it's not smart enough, which is really funny.
That in particular manifests itself more in my job and my work, not so much in my personal life.
Okay.
That imposter syndrome thing.
Yeah. So you've heard the statistic, I'm sure, probably, that men will apply for jobs that they have 20% of the skills for, and women will only apply for jobs that they have 100% of the skills for,
That makes
and the
sense.
men get them. Right? What you think you need to know is very different than what you actually need to know. And here's a secret, having worked with a ton of very successful business owners over the years, they're all just making this shit up.
I come to realize that more and more. Yes.
All of them. You know? All just making this shit up, right? And they don't know what they're doing any more than anybody else. They're just like trying it and seeing how it goes. You learn things over time. There are things, but you know them because you tried and failed and tried and failed and tried and failed and tried and oh, hey, that worked. Okay. But yeah. And there's no guarantee what worked yesterday will work tomorrow, especially not in today's day.
No,
20 years ago, that was a little easier, but with tech, everything's changed. That in the world is just moving so much faster, terrifyingly faster. Okay. Yeah. So the rule of thumb on that one is just make a list of things that debunk it. Here's all the ways in which I am smart. And so when it tells you you're not smart, if you go, dude, excuse you, and then you go this and this and this and this and this and this, go away, you bother me.
Since in my working world, I've always managed no formal education college-wise, but I've always managed to work myself into higher level positions, management positions and what have you. But there's always that part of me that sure fooled them. What were they thinking?
Yeah. Okay. So that's a not accepting what's true, right? That's a not seeing what's true.
Yeah.
Because what I see is you came in and learned from the bottom up. You had a proactive approach to things. You learned on the job as you went and dragged information out of everybody you possibly could so that you could better yourself in a way that most other people don't bother to. And that you have clawed and scraped and earned everything you've gotten. And therefore you are a badass. Okay. Now I recorded that on purpose because I want you to snip that out and listen to it over and over again.
All
Okay.
right.
Because that's your new mindset for that.
I'm gonna get a
Because
t-shirt. I'm a
the other
bad.
one doesn't serve you, right? The other one says, I tricked them, which will also turn into, I fear I'm a bad person because I trick people, right? That comes together too. And I know how damaging that one can be because I used to have that. And when I went on walkabout and I left town and I came back, I was worried that I couldn't talk to the people because they would have figured out that I had tricked them into liking me in the first place. And when I came back and they were shocked and amazed and happy, thrilled to see me even, I was floored, right? I was like, oh, you didn't figure it out already? I must be really good at tricking, right? I had to debunk it, right? So it will eventually expand out to a lot of other things. Be careful about that, buying into that. Okay. All right. All right. Where are we? Yeah. Okay. That's it for the third chakra. Second chakra. Okay. Energy's flowing. All right. So there's energy here, but it feels a little stagnant. Second chakra is creativity, fertility, sexuality, sensuality, also anything around addictions and attachments or shame and guilt, things like that. So the energy in here, there is energy flow. It's not shut down, but it's not moving a lot. It's stagnating. And so this goes back again to having pulled your creativity out of the second chakra and thinking it to death, right? And so the encouragement to bring that back down into your body. This also feels like it's sexually related. There's some stagnancy there, which we were talking about menopause before the before the show. That'll do it. But yeah, it just feels like there's some stagnancy there. Let me see about addiction to action here. Seeing a little bit of workaholism, but not anything else in the addiction area. Not seeing any attachments, so that's good. There's a little bit of guilt energy, but it feels like it was related to dad. It feels like it's old and it's fading, and it feels like it was related to dad and not enough to worry about, right? It's going to fade away. It's going to continue to fade. I don't see any shame in there either. We're good. This chakra looks, there's not enough energy in it. What I would say is I would come into doing some more embodied practices, some yoga or Tai Chi or Qigong or any physical activity would be good for you. The more full body it is, the better. So dancing versus walking, swimming versus meditation, right? This isn't about calming the mind, it's about getting into the body. The more of your body that you're using, the better. Yeah, that'll help. We'll talk more about that when we get into the root chakra around the feminine. So let's go there now. Okay. Check the energy flow first. Okay. Energy flow looks good, but I'm not feeling, oddly, the energy is flowing from the earth, but I'm not feeling grounded. Are you thinking about moving?
I don't think in a realistic way, but in my head, yes.
Usually, when I see energy flowing well from the root, but no grounding, it's usually because someone is either actively planning or actively in the process of moving their physical location, their home from one place to another. There's like this ungrounding process that happens as you literally pull up your roots from one place to move to another, right? Now, you are in the process of foundational deconstruction, which could also impact this because that's where your foundation exists, is in the ground, right? That may be impacting it. But let me just see if there's anything else, any more information on this. Give me a second. Interesting. They're having my diaphragm lock up on me. They're bringing me back to the third chakra, rather. This is going to be related to the identity piece then. Everything's relevant in shamanism, man. Okay. It just is. Okay. Yeah, they're bringing me back to the identity piece on this. It's also, though, this feels like it's about the let me go into the feminine, because it feels like it's about the feminine energy too. Yeah. Oh, okay. Got it. All right. Took me a minute. You are partially dissociated from your body, which means that your energy has pulled up and out of your body. So you've got the grounding energy coming up, the earth energy coming up, but because you're not fully in your body, you're not managing to ground effectively. Okay. So what that means is that you just need to, I would say, it's cold outside where you are right now, but ideally, you would be stomping on the ground in your bare feet to bring yourself back into your body. Okay. As much as you can pull that off. At the very least, go outside and stomp on the ground in as thin a shoes as you can come up with. If there's not snow on the ground, that's great. Or shovel the snow off the ground and put yourself on the grass, right? But that you need to get back into your body for this to really fully land for you. And so and that will complicate your foundational deconstruction if you're not in your body, because you're already going to be woofy to begin with. You don't want to add to that. Okay. All right. Feminine. Let's look at the feminine. Okay. So you're leaning into the flow of things, but you're still trying to structure the crap out of them. Okay. The thing about the feminine is that it's very much about what is. And you're still in a pathway of, I need to create what I want. And the feminine is about being with what is and exploring in it, right? So there's a wild feminine self, and it's the wild woman within, right? And she is just intensely in connection with nature, and she has no words. She does not speak. She at most grunts, howls. She may sing, croon, or keen, but she doesn't express herself verbally, because to do so would be in her head. She is all from her emotion, all from her instinct, all from her connection to her body and the earth. And that part of you is really calling out to you right now. You mentioned earlier that you have a love for nature, but that is being driven by her right now. And I don't think it's really practical right now, but in the spring, when things start to thaw, going down to a river or a lake where there's mud, and like stripping down as much as you feel comfortable stripping down, and just painting yourself in the mud and getting it all up in your hair and putting your hair up with sticks and all of that would be super good for you, right? It's this connecting physically to the wild woman self, right? And I could see you like shifting in your chair and it's like, I'm a little uncomfortable with this, but maybe, right? And just getting into your body around it. There's something very primordial about it. And I don't know, it's just important for you. I'm feeling it. So I work a lot when I do manifestation work. I work in the chaos realms, the primordial ooze of life, right? And this practice is a primordial ooze of life connector, right? It puts you in connection with that chaos primordial energy, right? And that is the foundation of creation. Have you had children?
I have a child, but she's adopted.
Okay. So you haven't physically produced life from your body. Okay. This is that. So when we have children, and I haven't had any children either, when we produce life from our bodies, it is connecting us to that primordial energy. And I think that's why they're calling you to this, because they called me to this as well. And I think it's a way for us to connect in a way that did not require us to produce life from our bodies. And so we need to connect into that energy and to bring the wild woman into form in our own world. Okay.
In other words, I'm coming to Panama and we're going to go roll in mud together.
Okay. I'm in. I know the best place for mud. I got great mud.
When you were saying that and I was going like this, because I have a creek that runs behind my house and I was envisioning going down there, but there's also some housing on the other side. So that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I'll have to find something more private.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, but this is, when we're talking about, this is what I'm talking about, is needing to jump into the energy of that, because the wild woman gives us access to our instincts, to our body wisdom, right? To give you an example of how that plays out, sometimes my friend Kathy was doing health coaching for a while, and she would have people do these blood tests to find out what you were allergic to.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so funny because she had me do it and it came back and there were 2 things that I was really marginally allergic to, and I had already cut both of them out of my diet. And she calls me embodiment girl because because I know my body, right? And that's what being in touch with this energy is about. Your body speaks to you and it tells you. And you just, at an inherent level, you just have a sense of it, right? And so that is what that's about. Okay, so let's see here. What's next? Yeah, and that's going to help with that second chakra energy too. Yeah, and coming into your body again, bringing your energy that's been dissociated back into your body will also help with that second chakra. It's because your energy is out of alignment with your body and your second chakra is where your body aligns with your energy. That's why it's stagnating, even though the energy's in there and moving. I'm like, why is it stagnating while it's moving? It doesn't make any sense because you're out of your body. That's why. Okay. Partially, not entirely. Okay. See, fears around safety and security. No, nothing significant. There's minor things around the identity shift where you're like, yeah, but that's normal, right? Nothing major there. We've already talked about your friend groups, so no need to look at that. Okay, let's look at your manifestation bubble. Okay, so that's not moving very much. Let me see what happens if you come back down into your body, or when you come back down into your body. Map that. Okay, now the manifestation bubble moves. Okay, I don't see any blocks for manifestation once you get back into your body. Okay, so that's going to be the key factor for you. Okay, any questions about anything we've talked about? Remember, I told you at the beginning there was going to be a lot.
There's a lot. There's a lot. And I've been writing notes, but
that's why you get a recording and a transcript.
That's my structure thing probably that you talked about earlier.
It's just the sheer quantity of information I give.
True.
Like,
yeah.
Nobody can remember it all.
No questions, but some of the things when we talked about within my job and workplace, and I'm not in this place of wanting to move up any longer. And in my life, because I feel myself separating from, I call it the mundane ins and outs of this life that we're living. And I'm more looking spiritually and wanting to do something that has more meaning.
Yeah.
So that's maybe where that blockage comes from, is I don't want to get promoted because I don't think I want to stay where I'm at.
Okay.
Just this mundane life. I keep saying mundane, but it's just like this world that we've been told this is what is and how it is. And I'm starting to realize, no, it's not. And I don't like being in that. And that ties into the friend thing too. It's not that the people that are in my world and in my life have to, I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but
they've opted into the world you're opting out of.
Yeah.
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 I don't want to be involved in the mundane world and the materialistic part of that. That's a better way of saying it.
Yeah. There's a matrix that is the accepted American life.
Yes.
And that's what I see you questioning.
Yeah. I'm not feeling it anymore.
Yeah, I'm with you. People keep looking at me going, what are you going to do when you retire? I'm like, I live a retired lifestyle now. Why would I need to retire? I've been doing this for 25 years. I've worked for myself from home for 25 years. I make my own hours. I do my own thing. I opted out a while ago. So I'm with you. Yeah.
Opting out, but then there's a lot of fear associated with that because I have worked hard to get where I'm at and the what ifs.
I get it. I get it. There's transitions to be had if you want to make them, and ways to do it in a way that feels sustainable, right? But we can talk about that. Anything else you need from this reading? Any thoughts, any questions, any feedback, anything?
I'm just looking over some things I wrote. No, I don't think so.
How was this for you?
It was interesting. Like you said, there's a lot here, so it's going to take a little bit of time for me to
Integrate.
integrate. And I know it's not like a life reading of circumstances going on in my life at the moment. So some of those questions that I have, I don't need to ask, I don't think.
Okay.
Anything that did you see in there about being a very empathic type person? Because I feel like I am to the extent
Oh,
of
totally.
words.
Yeah, you have all the empath factors. Yeah. Have you gotten the Boundaries for Empaths class on the website yet?
I haven't.
Okay, so that's on the website. If you go to the blog, and then on the right-hand column of the blog it says Boundaries for Empaths. You can sign up for the free e-course there.
Oh,
I highly recommend.
yeah, that definitely comes into play. Like sometimes I feel too much, and that could also be why I step back into the background because I feel too much for
Yeah.
people. And
Yeah, you definitely have all the empathic markers. Being an empath is a blessing and a curse, and the curse can be fixed if you know how to adjust your energy field. And that's what the course is for. And then you get the benefit of all the blessings of it, because it also means you get to read people like no tomorrow, and you've got all kinds of abilities that you can use. There's healing abilities and psychic abilities and things like that go with being an empath. But you first need to learn how to protect and control and manage your own energy. Yeah.
and that's a big one because I would tend to put what other people are feeling ahead of myself and let it affect me way too much. And even more so when it's somebody that I'm close to.
And it also means that we try to manipulate the crap out of them because we're trying to make them feel better so we don't have to feel whatever they're feeling. So,
Makes sense.
yes.
Makes sense.
So when you learn how to adjust your energy field, you won't have to do that anymore. So that's always a bonus. Then people can feel as bad as they want and you don't have to participate. Some people are very attached to their bad feelings. They're like super in love with them.
And that
Like-
for me, that's just particularly hard in relation to, I'll just say like my daughter and what she happens to be going through in her life and has through her whole life. That's hard for me to step away from that. I don't know how that's going to be possible.
Yeah, I have a client I work with on something like that, and we do a lot of work around that. And it's gotten a lot better for her over time. So it's just been a matter of adjusting perspective and energy and power, recognizing what you have the power to change and what you don't have the power to change and things like that.
And in regards to that, earlier you were talking about a plant and I said iris.
That's her name.
Popped into that for me. Maybe you don't remember, but
No, I do remember, but is that
okay.
her name?
It is the baby that she's carrying's name that's going to be born in April.
When you said the name Iris, I was like, oh, that's a name. I knew it was a name. I just didn't know what it was associated with. Yeah.
It's going to be my granddaughter's name.
Ah, okay. That makes sense. Growing like a weed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
See, this is the thing about the language of spirit, is that it's multifaceted, multi-layered, right? So it means everything I told you and all those other things too, right? So it's just, that's why they give me images, because images are more robust and more layered. And yeah, That's why I try to tell people what I'm seeing as opposed to what I interpret it to mean,
Mhm.
because the visual often has more than one meaning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, okay. Is that good? Or you have anything else?
I think that's good.
Okay. All right. Thanks for hanging in to the end with us, guys. As always, I'm super happy to have you here. And remember to subscribe and share. And remember, what you focus on is what you create. What you intend, what you focus on is what expands. What you intend is what you create. So choose wisely.